That's how we all die.
In the last episode, we watched Depp's deposition video and compared what he said with what he's saying now. Then we watched Heard's deposition video and compared what she said with what she's saying now. And you may have noticed, what took her 2 minutes to explain in 2016 was turned into more than 10 minutes in 2022, along with assorted embellishments and a completely different personality. Depp, on the other hand, seems to be consistent. Now, before we listen to Incredibly Average's take on these audio recordings, I'm going to play some of the testimony given by Dr. Curry during the present US trial. Bear in mind, Incredibly Average didn't have this info on hand when he made these videos during the UK trial. Many people are upset with Dr. Curry's forensic analysis regarding Heard's court-ordered mental evaluation. However, I don't think Dr. Curry or Depp's team are suggesting Heard's mental conditions are the reason she's abusive. Generally speaking, people who consume recreational drugs are no more abusive than people who don't. Likewise, people diagnosed with BPD or HBD are no more abusive than those who aren't. This is just one example of a false cause fallacy. Depp's team are simply pointing out that Heard's language in the hours and hours of recordings now in evidence resembles these conditions. The defence has hammered Depp over and over about the term monster, for example. Or when Heard says, "You beat me while I'm down," which is describing her feelings of abandonment, not physical abuse in the literal sense. Similarly, Depp uses non-literal language when he's communicating with his friends via text. For example, in some texts he quotes several movies, some comical like Monty Python and others not so comical. The audio recordings are available for download from the website, but we will include a few examples. First we'll listen to Dr. Curry's explanation of the symptoms, and then we'll listen to some of the audio recordings where Heard displays some of these symptoms.
As a result of the work that you performed, did you form any opinions with respect to Ms. Heard?
I did.
What were those opinions?
The results of Ms. Heard's evaluation supported 2 diagnoses: borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. So there were a couple of characteristics that she noted in her self-report that were consistent with these personality disorders. The first was actually my own behavioral observations of her based on her self-report. So one of the hallmark characteristics of histrionic personality disorder is sort of a overly dramatic presentation. We call this impressionistic speech. So it tends to be very flowery. It uses a lot of descriptive words like magical, wonderful, and it can go on for quite some time, and yet it really lacks any substance. So at the end, you're left wondering what was just said or what the answer is to the actual question. So that occurred a number of times, and it also represented the quick shifts you'll see between emotions. So she would suddenly be one way, and then she would become very animated or very sad. And when people are displaying these emotions with this personality disorder, there's a sense of shallowness to it. People who are observing them will feel like it's almost play acting, and they might not be able to put their finger on it, but part of it is because of the rapidness with which the person can switch emotions, and also the lack of substance. They don't really refer to, "I feel this way." They might describe emotions, they might describe events, but very rarely, and Ms. Heard did not say, "I feel vulnerable." She never really indicated a vulnerable feeling of her own. This might be an appropriate time to describe a little bit about these personality disorders, because I think what you'll hear is that there's a lot of consistency there. So borderline personality disorder is a disorder of stability. It's instability, and it's instability in personal relationships, it's instability in their emotions, it's instability in their behavior, and it's instability in their sense of self and their identity. And that instability is really driven by this underlying terror of abandonment. So one of the key features also of this disorder, and all of it is like pistons of an engine kind of firing off and igniting one another. But when somebody is afraid of being abandoned by their partner or by anybody else in their environment and they have this disorder, they'll make desperate attempts to prevent that from happening. And those desperate attempts could be physical aggression, it could be threatening, it could be harming themselves. But these are behaviors that are usually very extreme and very concerning to the people around them. The anger is typically what, sadly, it's counteractive, right? So the thing these people fear most is being abandoned, but over time, the anger, the explosive anger that they show when somebody is needing space, or when somebody's really not doing anything wrong, because a lot of times they read into things that they perceive as being a slight to them or being somebody intending to harm them that actually isn't happening. They'll exaggerate it, and they'll explode. They'll react in this heightened manner that is just exhausting for their partners. Oftentimes their partners will try to make them happy at first and really allow themselves to be a punching bag, thinking that they can somehow solve this problem, that somehow they can make this better. And eventually it just overwhelms them. People have a lot of incentive to present themselves in a way that's going to benefit their case. And they may want to look like they're sicker than they really are. They may want to look much healthier than they really are. And some of those incentives, they may not even realize that they're intending to do that. So it can be conscious or unconscious, but you really need to have a test that can check for that. And the MMPI-2 has a set of validity scales, we call them. These are scales that measure really the truthfulness and accuracy with which a person is approaching the test.
What did you learn about Ms. Hurd from the results of the MMPI-2?
Quite a bit. I wrote up a 25-page interpretation outline. It has numerous scales. So one of the reasons I like this measure so much is that it can tell you so much about multiple different traits and tendencies and mental issues. One of the primary things I learned was that she had a very sophisticated way of minimizing any personal problems. I also learned that she tends to, well, there were a number of characteristics that were consistent with the eventual diagnoses, but some of the primary characteristics, and I'm going to try to condense 25 pages here, were essentially externalization of blame, tending to have a lot of inner hostility that is attempted to be controlled, a tendency to be very self-righteous, but to also deny that self-righteousness and to judge others critically against these sort of high standards for moral value, but also to deny doing that, essentially to claim that one is very non-judgmental and accepting and yet very full of rage, really. And these aren't facts, but her scores essentially correlated, so they were consistent with other people who obtained these scores who have been shown through many studies to have these very specific traits. So externalization of blame, a lot of inner anger and hostility, sometimes that anger among these groups with similar scores, these people might have that anger kind of explode out at times. They tend to be very passive aggressive. They may be self-indulgent, very self-centered. They could use manipulation tactics to try to get their needs met, very needy of attention, acceptance, approval. They tend to distance people who are close to them. Initially, they may seem very charming. They're very socially sophisticated, actually. That was a major component on there. They have a capacity to kind of offer some of their faults, but in a way, but only the ones that people think of lightly and can all relate to. And so they can present as very fair and balanced, but in actuality, they really might be very judgmental of others and unaware of problems in their behavior and their thinking. Ms. Heard had the clearest code type was 3-6, but then she also had some other code types that were less significant.
What characteristics are associated with a 3-6 code type?
So a 3-6 code type, a lot of that anger is expressed in this code type. There can be actually a lot of cruelty, usually with people who are less powerful. Actually, when you see this code type, you want to, if you can, to follow up with subordinates, co-workers, people who may have observed their behavior more closely. The 3-6 code type is very concerned with their image, very attention-seeking, very prone to externalizing blame to a point where it's unclear whether they can even admit to themselves that they do have responsibility in certain areas. A lot of suppressed and denied anger, but the anger is very present, will explode out, and a lot of issues in their close relationships.
How does Ms. Heard's code type fit in with your overall opinion as to personality disorders? Are you familiar with the term emotional reactivity?
I am.
What is that?
So emotional reactivity is very common in the diagnosis. So essentially, like I said, there's instability in emotions. People with borderline personality disorder are often misdiagnosed as having bipolar disorder because they can be up and down. They can look very depressed and they can look very elated, but these changes are happening within a matter of hours. Somebody with bipolar disorder, this is a clinical depression lasting days, weeks, a clinical mania where sometimes they even need to be hospitalized because they're so grandiose. They clear out their bank account and go to Vegas and spend it all. They're acting in some very bizarre ways. With borderline personality disorder, you're having these fluctuating moods constantly. And again, this hypersensitivity to being slighted or feeling offended, really driven by the fear that if you're offended or slighted, if the therapist comes in 2 minutes late, or if somebody shows up to dinner 2 minutes late, that they might be abandoning you. And it's not as if the borderline is considering themselves abandoned in that moment, but they just know that they have this overwhelming emotion and there are no attempts to control that emotion. There are no attempts to regulate it. So if they're in the middle of the restaurant and they feel offended, they're gonna start the fight. People are going to see it, or they might just start crying or break down, but they'll make a lot of accusations, and that reactivity is when you're gonna see a lot of this escalation in the bizarre behavior. They can react violently, they can react aggressively, they will often physically prevent their partner from trying to leave if their partner wants to get space from all of this intense emotion, and oftentimes they will be abusive to their partners in these situations. Sometimes they'll physically restrain them from leaving and become injured that way, but also people with borderline personality disorder, it seems to be a predictive factor for women who implement violence against their partner. And one of the most common tactics that they'll use is actually physically assaulting and then getting harmed themselves. But mostly, we call this administrative violence. Essentially, this is saying that they'll make threats using the legal system. So they might say that they are going to file a restraining order or claim abuse, or they might do these things to essentially try to keep their partner from leaving. In the moment, again, they're not consciously thinking, I'm going to keep my partner from leaving right now. They're just thinking, I can't stand this. I hate my partner. They went from idealizing to suddenly devaluing because of the hurt, and they'll do anything to express that big emotion of anger.
I can't hear you, baby. I'm sorry.
I don't know what else to do.
I thought that we had some sort of game plan.
I told you what I needed. You said we should make a list, but yet you don't. Like, seeing the counselor is not gonna just, it's not gonna do it. It's not alone, you know. We gotta change how we do things, and I want to trust you, and I feel like all the trust is gone. All the fucking trust is gone in the relationship because you keep splitting.
I'm not gonna be in a physical fucking altercation
Don't.
with you.
Then don't.
You fucking hit me last night. You fucking...
What about all the other times you split? Come on, you cannot act like that's about that. It's
Well,
not.
well, on a plane I can't split.
No, and you hit back, so don't act like you don't fucking
I
participate.
pushed you.
I'm not going to get into the details of that fight. You and I both know that you split when there is no physical violence involved. And that you do it at the very beginning of fights these days. And if you split and you go into a different room and you don't actually leave that house, it does nothing but perpetuate the fight.
A couple of things to address already. Note how Amber isn't complaining about any abuse she has since claimed to have suffered, and this is just months before the divorce. In fact, her primary complaint in this argument is that Johnny split or left, removing himself from a physical attack by Amber the night before. This will be her main sticking point throughout the video. Her wording is curious for an alleged abuse victim. Amber, of course, testified to only hitting Johnny one time during their entire relationship, apparently to save her sister Whitney. But this is not that day following the March 2015 incident. This is months later, and yet we have already established that Johnny wants no part of these seemingly frequent physical altercations and chooses instead to leave the room or the home altogether when attacked. Both parties speak as if these attacks by Amber are a common occurrence. Of course, Amber doesn't want to talk about the details, but she'd rather stick to the point of Johnny leaving when he's attacked, to which her response is that only perpetuates the fight. So if I'm understanding this correctly, she claims he makes the fight and her response worse by running away. You know, the whole "you're making me do this" reasoning. You may have also noticed that Amber used the words "you hit back," which translates to "I hit you first," and also "so don't act like you don't participate," which is odd phrasing to me. He corrects her by saying he pushed her on the plane during one of her attacks, something he has owned up to doing on another occasion when she was punching him in order to get away from her and get her off of him to get to the door and leave. But I'm sure the act of moving her or shoving her away to escape counts as abuse in her book, no matter what she was doing to prompt it.
And then he started to kind of do this thing again where he'd disappear and he'd come back. And I remember at first when he first started drinking, I didn't really think much of it, but all of a sudden the behavior kind of started to go in line with the disappearing, and he'd come back and he'd just be different. And I'd say something and he'd accuse me of saying something else or saying it in a different way, or he would, it was mostly my clothing at the time and me working. That was the main thing. Like, I found myself trying to not talk about auditions because it would change the mood so dramatically. I tried to, he would make these comments about, whoring myself out, but do so in the context of me acting, and he would talk about other actresses who do my role in this way where they were worthless whores, that they were fame hungry, expletive, just this. The point is, it felt really dirty to be an actor. Never mind that he was one. And it continued. And then there would be a blow up. And at first it was just to throw something, smash some things. He loves to smash up a place, an apartment, furniture is what it started with. Glass, threw glass at me, and I remember it was summer. And he just threw this glass across the kitchen, and it didn't hit me, but it shattered behind me, and I remember thinking that it very easily could have hit me. And that, calling me a whore, it didn't start with using the whore word, it was just comments until it would escalate. And then I started to notice the pattern of escalation where he'd throw glass or turn over a table. Then he would hit the wall, and then he'd hit the wall really close to my head. You know, like when I'm standing there, you know, just hit the wall, screaming at me. But then he would disappear and get clean and sober, and he'd come back and tell me that he was done drinking, he was over it, he was done, cleaned himself up, he had done it before, and he'd do it again.
It's not true. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
Those are different.
whatever
That's
the
different.
fucking else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
No, you're trying to justify how you don't or do come to the door
No,
based
I'm
on whether I throw pots and pans. It's irrelevant.
No, I'm justifying how you seem to think that there's this cowardice in me that runs away and I don't fight for you.
And you're justifying that by saying I throw pots and pans? Okay, cool. Let's talk about everything you do wrong.
I'm not the one who fucking did that. I didn't.
So that makes sense. That's clear. Yeah.
The only time I ever threw anything at you was when you fucking threw the cans at me in Australia.
Why are you trying to justify who throws things based on whether or not you come knocking on the door?
Because that is a fucking irrational and violent fucking maneuver. So a man would want to get out of that area so that he doesn't get so fucking angry that he actually does pop the fucking wife.
How does one inform the other?
Oh, man. Go home and listen to the tape. Please. That's what they're for.
Yes. You listen to the fucking tape.
Oh, I'm gonna.
So will I.
And here we have Amber admitting to throwing pots, pans, vases, and a variety of other things at Johnny, but claiming it's irrelevant to her complaint that he splits because of the attack, and then doesn't come to her to work it out after having the pots, pans, vases, and cans thrown at him. And I'm not skipping over the fact that Johnny did say he threw a can back when she threw a bunch at him. And notice he brought that up, so credit for honesty, while she doesn't even want to discuss it. And neither mentioned that the can actually hit her, nor does she dispute this being the only time and reason that he threw something in her direction. Also, and feel free to leave a comment discussing this, I respect that he would rather just leave so she isn't able to physically assault him to the point he would end up doing something he regrets and hurt the one he loves. Smart move to just leave, at least in my opinion. I'd be interested to know how many people can empathize with that.
And so you stayed, correct? You stayed in the relationship?
Yes.
Okay. So, is this a good time? You want to
You can keep going a little longer, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, could you please describe for the jury the evolution of your relationship after that time with Johnny?
I don't know how long it was until things got bad again. He did start drinking again. I remember it was almost, he'd start drinking again, the disappearing thing, the coming back. He'd come back like in the middle of the night to my house. And it would be unclear to me, drunk, often really drunk, and kind of accusing me, but not directly. Nothing was very direct. It was a lot of accusations, but they were veiled. What I was wearing, who I was with, why didn't I text him back? If I didn't text him back right away, this is when I was at my place in Orange, sometimes he would show up to catch me. Like that was a pretext for coming over, and by the time we were done talking, I would have thought I had convinced him that I loved him, that I only loved him, there was no one else, and then that we were back in an upswing and would go back to good, loving, like sick, romantic love, like kind, sweet, velvety love. And then it would be something I said, why did you say it that way? You know, if I had to leave for an audition, I could guarantee that when couldn't guarantee, but 2 of those in a row, and when I came back, he was angry at me, you know, and I wouldn't necessarily know why. And then he started accusing me of things, probably, like, at first it was indirect, and then it became really direct. Then the punching of the walls next to my head, which is a constant at that time in 2012 when he was drinking. Eventually that became, you know, him accusing me of cheating. I'd defend myself. I'd say, you know, that's crazy, you're wrong, I would never, the normal things. And it would escalate to the point where he would push me or shove me down, and then I'd get back up. And this happened several times, that's why it's not more specific, I suppose. When I'd get back up, I'd look him in the eye. I made a point of getting up and looking him in the eye. It's my way of defending myself at that time. And I'd look at him, and he'd ask me if I wanted to go again, and shove me back down. Eventually, it just hit me.
Really, when you split on me, how do you feel when I leave you?
When I split, when I go into the other room, you said.
And getting me a room, I mean, getting another room at a hotel is just the same thing.
When did I get another room at a hotel?
You text Steven or Nathan in Toronto to get you another room. It's chronic. It happens all the time. And if you do it to go into another room, you do it and you get dressed.
You were fucking screaming at me.
I'm not going to validate my actions last night. I feel very bad.
No, I'm talking in Toronto.
I did not start screaming until you had fucking said all the shit. You poke an animal enough, it is eventually, doesn't matter how friendly it is or how cool.
So she mentions him getting another room in Toronto because she was screaming at him, and even gets it mixed up with the previous night's incident when she was also screaming at him and punched him, again referring to herself as an animal that was being poked, and that's why she does it, attempting to validate her actions.
So I have not done this to you. I have not said these things to you. I have not started the fight by saying I'm going to get another room. And I'm not going to sit here and fight about fucking Toronto anymore. Guess what? I let it go. I'm not fucking talking about Toronto.
Send me the tapes.
I can whisper it. I can write it. Guess what? I'm not saying another fucking word about Toronto. I'm so sick and tired of fucking fighting about old fights. This is not about a fight. This is broad. This is a broad thing. And if I'm telling you every single time you get dressed and you fucking split the top of a fight, you never fucking try and work it out, you never fight for me, you never come to me, you never self-calm, you never self-soothe, you're never the one to throw the olive branch, I'm sick and tired of it, it needs to fucking change. And you can go, I can't meet those demands, I can't do it, or you can fucking promise me so I have a modicum of safety, I feel a modicum of respect, a little tiny shit sliver of fucking like, you are in this whether it is good or bad, whether it is good or bad, down and up, lows and highs, tough and easy.
Here again, saying he doesn't stay and fight with her. He leaves. He removes himself from hostile environments, in her words, every single time you split at the top or beginning of a fight. But I thought he beat her whenever she questioned him or at the drop of a hat. Also notice how much she doesn't want to talk about her abusing him, saying this is not about a fight, but rather the broad subject of him leaving when a fight starts. And you may have caught on, she uses the terms needing safety. You'll realize as this progresses, she's referring to not physical safety, but the safety that the relationship and Johnny are not going anywhere, and she wants to be confident he won't leave, but rather stay and fight through the bad times.
You got the tapes, let me hear them. Send me the fucking recordings. Just text them to me.
I don't know how else to say I will to you. I haven't, because we have not been well. We have not been good. When I fucking move out, if I move out, then you'll have them and you can fucking relish them. You won't fucking like it, what you hear. Won't make you happy. But you'll hear what I'm telling you. That was after Toronto.
Yeah, that's when we came back here.
I know where we were.
Toronto, Boston, here.
I know where we were. We've been on the road basically since Australia, and I have been at your side, and I have not been filming a movie.
Well, we were on our honeymoon. I hope you were at my side.
I'm not talking about just a honeymoon. Now, am I? I'm talking about many months. And was it all the honeymoon? No. I have been at your side throughout it all. You said, why did you come to Rio? And I answered you. I would love for it to be better. I have no fucking consistency, no safety, no security. The relationship is something, is something you don't fight for, you don't stand up for, you always run from when it's tough. I'm telling you, I need more. We didn't say vows. You didn't make them exactly in the same, in that way, you know, but now is the fucking time. I need to know if you're going to be there. I want promises. I told you that at the beginning of this conversation. I need promises you're going to fucking be there. I need promises that this is important to you. Not when it's easy, when it's hard too. This is something you'll fight for. That this is something that's sacred. That neither of us throw out every fight. I can't be the only one to hold the promises. I was in Toronto and it fucked me over. I can't be the only one. You can't be the only one. If I split on you, all those times that I thought about doing it, we would not be here. And I stayed, and it's tougher. You know, that's stronger. I'm stronger. It is easy to run. It is easy to run away from problems. It is easy to take that out and say, well, that's the easiest. That's the best, safest. That's the safest way out. I'm not saying we should get in physical altercations. I never want to be in that. Never. But every time you don't like what I say and you fucking run away, will never work out anything. You can't run away every fight. You can't. It's easy. It's not brave. It's not strong. It's harder to say to somebody, I want to work this out. I want to face what I have. I want to face what you have. I want to work it out with you. You're not working it out. You're running away, and then you make me be the bigger person every single time and come to you and knock on the door and come to this house and say, hey, we're married. It's supposed to be sacred. Calm down, calm down.
I made you.
Yes, by default. If you're never the one to do it, one of us is. And I'm the one to do it every time. It means I'm the bigger person every time. It means I have to be the strong one. It means every time I have to fight for our relationship. And you get to be you get to be lazy. You get to be cowardly. I don't know what it is.
What are you here for? What do you need me for?
Once again, I am fighting for the relationship.
With a guy that you don't fucking trust or like? Why?
I did not say I didn't like you. I love you. You're my favorite person in the world.
I don't see how
I remember what I said at the beginning. I'm sorry you feel like you can't imagine it. But I said this to you at the beginning of this conversation. I said, you're my favorite person in the whole world. If you weren't the most magnetic, shiny, beautiful, interesting, dynamic person I had ever met in my life, it would be so easy to walk away from this bratty thing that you do.
Untrustworthy.
Did you hear what I just said? Yeah. I said I can't trust. That's not meaning you're untrustworthy. It means that we've created a situation. And I'm telling you what you do to create it too. We've created a situation in which trust can't grow. It's like, it's trampled every single time. And we need a marriage. That's why I sat down. Do you not remember me sitting down at the very beginning of this conversation and saying just that to you? Saying, I know you got married for security and for safety. So did I. We did not get married because it was something that we're doing, because it was something we could walk away. We wanted a foundation. No?
Yes, I wanted to make you my wife.
Yes, but you could just have me as your girlfriend if you didn't want the foundation. And you told me, and maybe you go back on it now. Fine, okay, cool. Lie about that. I don't know. You told me you wanted a foundation. You told me you wanted the security. You wanted the safety. You liked the foundation. At the beginning, you said, I really like having that. It feels safe. So don't argue with me when I say it now.
I'm not arguing with you.
Oh, yeah, but you had to pick it apart.
By saying because I loved you and you're my wife? I wanted you to be my wife? That's picking it apart?
No.
Then how did I pick it apart?
No, forget it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight about a fight. I want to fight about the semantics.
How come when I come up with a point, you can't answer it? You don't want, or suddenly you don't want to answer it?
What am I not answering? Because I don't want to fight about this new thing? No, I don't want to. I said you wanted the safety and security, and you stopped me, you interrupted me, and then you said, what? Because because I wanted to have you as my...
I didn't interrupt you. You asked me, right? You said, right?
I meant you interjected. I meant you said. You said. How about that? See, now, is this better? I answered you. I addressed what you're saying. Now can we please not fight about that?
And I said, because I love you.
You said loved.
Well, we're talking about a fucking event that's past tense. If I used loved, my apologies. It doesn't mean I don't love you now.
See how much she actually does pick apart the things he says, or sometimes even doesn't say, kind of like the whole "you said loved" when he said love part, but then accuses him of picking it all apart. She says she doesn't want to fight about the very things she's trying to verbally beat him down about, this time using guilt and then love bombing him to subdue him before telling him again what he is doing or saying is wrong. At least that's how I'm hearing it.
My whole point that you had, I don't know, an issue with is that you love me. Yes, you married me, though, because you wanted some safety, some security, some stability, a foundation. Of course I want that with you. It's why I'm married to you. But I need the safety, I need the security, I need the boundaries, and I think you... Could you not agree?
I need the same things.
So
but when you start flipping out, and I can't get a word in, and it's you know, manic and angry. Well, what the fuck, Amber?
I get angry. I'm human.
Hey, she gets angry. She yells. She hits him. It's human. Let her be human. Notice who the voice of reason here is, saying that he doesn't want to be there and go through it, and because he just doesn't want to fight, which in turn makes her even more angry because apparently that's what she wants him to stay and do, to fight and stop running, even telling her alleged abuser that he isn't brave or strong by leaving, but she is by fighting. Her words, not mine.
Just try. Let's both try. If there's anger, if there's something fucking really fucking poking us in the ass, let's try. Try not to fucking fight. Try to address it without jumping down each other's throats, because all that's going to do is build a mountain of fucking resentment, some species of fucking hatred within the love, and totally fucking mistrust, because you say you don't trust me. I get it, okay. I'm flake, I'm a this, I'm a that.
I didn't say as a person. I was speaking specifically about this. I don't trust the marriage. I don't trust you. I don't feel safe with it because you always fucking bail on it.
Well, then
That's
I don't know, you know.
I want the trust back. You can deflect all you want, say it's my fault, say how dare I get angry at you ever, whatever. I'm telling you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what.
And sometimes I don't. I don't want to fucking be there and go through the shit. I don't, man. I don't.
I know.
And I don't want to, because I don't want to fucking fight.
But it doesn't have to be one. It's not like I'm saying, hey, choose fight.
You just said I get mad, I'm going to scream.
No, I didn't say that's always the case. I said, yeah, I'm mad. It happens. It happens.
Yes, I know. It happens often.
If you think I'm some fucking tyrant or bully, then don't fucking be with me. But don't sit here and insult me like I'm the fuck up because I have the
but you're
audacity
the one
to get
saying
mad.
that I'm the tyrant and the bully and at the same time the guy that runs away and
you run away every single fight.
Okay, so I mean, then what are you?
I'm not lying about it.
Then what are you doing with me?
I already answered that. We went through this conversation literally 5 minutes ago. I answered this already 5 minutes ago.
You just said to me that I shouldn't be with you.
No, I said
That's what I feel.
No, I said if I'm some, harping bully, which is what you make me sound like. Like I'm like constantly on you, making you feel bad. That's because that's what I do. And then you ignore everything. You take me for granted. You're ignoring everything that I do for you. You make me sound terrible. You talk about me in a terrible way. You do not fight for me, and then you want to sit here and make me sound so terrible to be around.
Fight for you?
You don't. Everything I've already explained.
No.
10 minutes before.
No, fight for you. I don't understand.
You never ever do the work. Put in the work. If we're arguing about something, you don't ever try to get to the bottom of it, figure out, make the peace. You want to make it easy on you, so you split. You don't fight for me. You don't fight when there's a problem. You don't come to me. You don't make peace with me. You never extend an olive branch. You're never the bigger guy. You're never the one that's like, okay, I'm going to put my own feelings aside for a second and say, this is bigger than us. Let's stop fighting. You never are the one to come and knock on my door. You take me for granted.
It's not true.
I'm not going to sit here and promise you I'll never get mad at you or that you'll never fuck up. I know you want to live in a world where everyone just says yes to you and doesn't question you or criticize you ever.
Don't insult me like that, please.
God, that's not the case. It's not why you're with me. I am honest with you. I'm sorry. You don't want to be held accountable. I get it.
I'm not sure you're so honest with me.
Well, that's your...
Watching you live in front of Travis last night was really a
That's your problem, and that's your whole thing that you've created. So I'm not going to sit here and go over every fight we've had. I'm not going to refight this fight. You have something you're holding on to about Travis. Fucking go fuck. You know, go do it. Go run away together. I don't know what you're fucking holding on to, but you have created that. I have no part of that. I don't know what you're fucking latched onto in your brain, what stray hairs have fucking commingled and tangled in your brain to make you think you've really figured some sort of thing out. But this is not unusual for you. It's like almost every fight I can pretty much guarantee you find something that you can like manipulate.
Let's ask Travis tonight.
Yes, why don't we invite Travis into our fucked up, broken ass, 3 fucking wheeled truck of a marriage? Why don't we crash it straight into the wall? Because no one knows us better than fucking Travis.
You're just afraid that the truth will come out.
What truth?
That you lied.
What are you fucking talking about? I didn't fucking even have a fucking thing to lie about. What are you fucking talking about? Every fucking fight, there's a new thing that you've convinced yourself is a lie.
I said to you, Amber, tell Travis what you just did. Did you just fucking... Did you punch me in the fucking jaw? Did you fucking kick... Did you? Did you? And you wouldn't say a fucking... You said, I don't know what you're talking about. It never fucking...
I see the
never
lie.
Fucking happened.
I see the lie. You really should run with this. In fact, maybe you and Travis can, like, go and, like, you know, do a tell-all about what a...
Hey,
you know, an investigative study.
Stop with the attitude, right? Sorry. Stop with the attitude.
Sorry.
You're getting all bunched up.
Sorry. Sorry.
Amber appears to not know what Johnny is talking about, and after she explodes, Johnny tries to calm her before she gives several short, sharp, and what sound like feigned and taunting, coy apologies. She then suggests Johnny run away and have sex with Travis. Travis was a security member and someone who had testified to witnessing the incident in March of 2015 in which Amber threw things at Johnny, spit on him, and punched him in the face.
It's so fucking pointless, and you know it, to sit here and fight about fucking... Whatever you think happened with Travis, it wasn't a conversation.
Listen, I was not high.
I'm not going to...
You lied. You're an asshole.
You're fucking full of shit. What lie?
When?
What conversation did I have with Travis? Big investigative study you've done. I'm not sitting here and fighting with you about the fight that we had last night.
After you fucking got physically violent with me, I texted Travis. I said, come up here, because I didn't want anything to happen.
I mean, yeah.
It's coming what? Save me?
No, go ahead. Continue. You... Travis to the rescue.
No, that was the last one. You can go, you go. That was the last insult.
Oh yeah, you called me a liar, and yet.
I watched you lie.
You called me a liar?
I watched you lie. I heard it. I was right there.
There's no, what? You still haven't told me what lie it is. But yet, every single fucking time. You know you do this every single fucking time.
We'll talk to Travis.
I'm not fucking talking to nobody.
No,
fuck that. You go fucking jerk him off. I don't care. I really could care less. It's you every single time. You latch onto some sort of thing. When I already told you, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You still haven't even told me what it is. But run with it.
I have told you what it is.
No, you haven't.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened. You
telling me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing. And you
figured
in the
it
face.
out.
And you said, no, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And I watched you lie. And then I
didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, even a lot of fights been around a long time. I know. Yeah,
no, when you fucking have a closed fist.
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know what
me.
the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your toes?
I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
that's the difference between me and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start physical fights?
You're such a baby!
Because
Grow the fuck up,
Because you start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable. Every single time. What's your excuse? When there's not a physical fight, then what's the excuse there? You're still being admirable, right? Just by running away? And you can sit here and call me names, but you get called a name, and what do? That's the last insult. You're a baby. You're a hypocrite. You don't do anything that you actually do. You expect from people what you can't give them.
But this seems to be the day following the incident I covered in this video, in which Amber admitted in her 2016 deposition to pushing her way into the bathroom where Johnny was hiding from her, and in his attempts to keep her out, the door scraped her toes, and when he leaned down to check, she kicked the door into his head and punched him in the face. And holy cow, the admissions here. Amber claims she could never even question Johnny without him flying off the handle and beating her while she remained helpless, and here she's mocking him, calling him admirable for running away from the fight all the time, calling him a hypocrite and a baby, while he still remains the rational voice in the room. Some of you might remember this episode of the show Overhauling. Johnny, with the help of Amber's father, David Hurd, tricked Amber into believing she was being called to deal with her father, who had allegedly punched this man, David Kalaki, because he had sold off Amber's Mustang in parts and pieces. I'm showing you this to set up the next points of testimony and evidence, and to add much needed context. Recently, Mr. Kalaki, Johnny and Amber's mechanic, gave a sworn declaration. In it, he recounts the events of the show. He then goes on to describe his interactions with Amber sometime after the show was taped, and then again after Amber and Johnny had separated in 2016. Sometime after the show, Mr. Kalaki went to the Eastern Columbia building where Johnny owned 5 penthouses in which he, Amber, and a number of Amber's friends lived. He was asked by Amber to show her how to use the touchscreen interface for her iPhone that he had installed on her car. After arriving at the appointed time, he waited 3 hours for Amber to come down from the penthouse. And once they found the Mustang in the parking garage, they each got in the car, with him in the passenger seat and Amber in the driver's seat, and he says she seemed to be in a happy mood. Soon after they got in the car, Amber said, "Oh, here we are, all alone in a parked car in a dark parking garage. We could do anything in here and nobody would see us." She added to the statement, but he can't remember exactly what words she used, as he didn't respond to her comments, only saying, "Okay, let me show you how the sound system works." And some of you might be wondering, what does this have to do with abuse? The answer? It doesn't. However, it shows her true character, and if the roles were reversed, I can't help but wonder if it would be more upsetting to people. While showing her the touchscreen display connected to her phone, Mr. Kalaki noticed her phone was already set to a contact, Dr. David Kipper. Being the mechanic for Dr. Kipper as well, Mr. Kalaki asked, "Oh, do you know Dr. Kipper?" Amber immediately became icy, asking, "How the f*** do you know David Kipper?" Mr. Kalaki apologized, but said there was extreme tension as her mood changed and she exited the car before storming away, saying, "It's none of your f***ing business." After Amber and Johnny separated in May of 2016, Mr. Kalaki continued to work on his cars and her Mustang. Amber had instructed him to implement several changes and additions to what the Overhauling show had done. He did as she asked, and in June of 2016, Kevin Murphy called Mr. Kalaki to tell him to continue to bill Johnny for the work done to his vehicles, but to separate the billing for Amber's Mustang. After doing so, and informing Amber, she became extremely angry, telling him about a financial downturn for her caused by Johnny. She threatened and cussed at Mr. Kalaki, at one point telling him, "You motherfucker, you're screwing me." She told him there was an agreement signed stating Johnny had agreed to pay her bills. After asking to see a copy, which she wouldn't produce, most likely because it didn't exist, she would go on to verbally abuse him using words like f***er, asshole and motherfucker. She then tried to tell him that she never authorized the repairs to her car. He reminded her of the text and conversations contradicting that. After trying to get him to give her car back without payment, she said, "Johnny's not paying my rent, he's not paying my bills, f*** him and f*** you." Soon after, Mr. Kalaki stopped responding to her abusive calls and texts when during their last phone conversation she told him he was a deplorable piece of Enter again Amber's father, David Heard. In an attempt to facilitate the repairs, modifications, and additions to the Mustang, he sent Mr. Kalaki several text messages. At this point, David Heard was very angry with Mr. Kalaki and Johnny. During a phone call with Mr. Kalaki, David Heard stated, "That f***ing piece of shit is f***ing me too because I'm supposed to get 10% of the money, and without it, I can't produce the movie I was going to make. He's ruining my baby girl's career and blackballing her in Hollywood." He would then threaten to kill Johnny, saying, "When I get to him, I'm going to beat the out of him. I'm from Texas and men from Texas carry 45s and Johnny is going to meet the f***ing end of mine." When Mr. Kalaki told David Heard that he sounded like he was drunk and advised him to stop making death threats, David Heard told him, "Yeah, maybe I am, and I'm going to shove the whiskey bottle up your I find it interesting that Amber's dad wasn't upset about alleged abuse, but rather the money he felt he and his daughter were getting screwed out of. Perhaps that's because he knew Johnny wasn't violent with his daughter. I know that seems like a bold statement, but hear me out. There's been a number of recent submissions of evidence to the courts in this case. These include text messages between Amber's father, David, her mother, Paige, and Johnny. Let's begin with Johnny's conversation with Amber's father, David. On the morning of May 21st, 2016, David sent Johnny a text. Later that night, Amber and her friends would, in my honest and educated opinion, try to frame Johnny for abuse he didn't commit. At this point, the couple hadn't seen each other for a month following Amber's birthday party on April 21st, when Johnny claims Amber punched him in the face and then pooped on his side of the bed after he escaped her. Amber claimed that Johnny assaulted her after the birthday party, but that didn't stop her parents from continuing to reach out to Johnny. The next text we have from David to Johnny is on May 27, 2016. The same day Amber showed up outside the LA court after seeking a restraining order with a spot on her face which was meant to be an injury from Johnny throwing a phone at her face, and y'all know the story. David told Johnny he was in a hospital bed but could talk if Johnny wanted to call. This potential phone call would seemingly be referenced later by David. The next text is from Johnny to David. It is lengthy, and at any point if you want to pause this to read them, be my guest. I'll be highlighting parts to reference key moments along the way. Johnny is obviously upset about the false claims of domestic violence, saying that Amber is perjuring herself, calling her claims sick, stating he has never been charged nor arrested for domestic violence, but she has twice. Now, I don't know of the second time, but I do know she was arrested in 2009 for physically abusing her then-wife Taja Van Ray at a Seattle airport. Amber would go on to call the arresting officer, who witnessed the assault, homophobic even though the officer is lesbian and an ally for LGBTQ rights. Johnny would then say the world will receive the truth and that Australia could reopen their case against her to investigate. Now, I don't know if this is referring to when Amber smuggled her dogs illegally into the country, or perhaps it stems from when she severely injured Johnny's finger in a fit of rage in March of 2015. He closes with, "I hope she's happy now." It's worth mentioning that her father doesn't dispute anything Johnny says. He simply tells him that the lawyers told her she had to or she would have no place to live in 30 days, admitting this was all made up so she wouldn't lose the penthouse. Johnny calls this absolute bull, telling her father Amber's lawyer asked for 2 weeks and he said she could stay as long as she liked. He told him his wedding ring is coming off now and it's just too much before telling David to feel better. Her father then sends a lengthy text to Johnny. He again repeated that the lawyers were telling Amber to say she was abused so she could keep the penthouse, and that he wishes he could be there to step in. He quickly becomes very worried that Johnny had mentioned to Amber that they had talked, because Amber was very angry with her father, telling him he couldn't tell her anything and to f*** off. He then expresses his desire for Johnny and Amber to talk it out, that he knows how angry Johnny is over this, and telling him that he has every right to be, ending it with, "I still love you, man." Quick question. What father tells the man who is being accused of abusing his baby girl that he has every right to be angry and that he wants them to somehow work it out? Probably the same guy who doesn't want the money well to dry up and within the next couple of months would be threatening to kill Johnny over money, not alleged abuse. Johnny would respond by telling him that he loved him too, and he never said a thing to Amber about them talking, that he doesn't throw people under the bus, and she can have her life now. David tells Johnny she probably grabbed his phone while he wasn't looking and saw that Johnny and her dad had been talking. So does that mean Johnny's telling the truth yet again, that he went over to the penthouse simply to gather some of his personal belongings on May 21st, and perhaps while upstairs getting his things, Amber went through his phone? Certainly seems like a strong possibility, doesn't it? David then tries to convince Johnny there must be a way around the restraining order to try and get over it, saying he knows it's a lot to get over. Again, what father encourages the man being accused of abusing his daughter to try and figure out a way around a restraining order to talk it out and try and get over it? These feel like reasonable and fair questions. But let's move on to Johnny's conversation with Amber's mother, Paige. Late morning on May 21st, 2016, Paige sent Johnny a text telling him if he wasn't taking her call because of something someone said, that it couldn't be further from the truth. She tells him they are 100% solid, always have been, always will be. She goes on to tell him she'd hate to think that she's been a pawn in this game and that she simply doesn't play that game. Like Amber's father, she says that she loves him, always has, and probably always will, and to please call her. Johnny would respond on the morning of May 27, 2016, the day Amber would later emerge from the LA courthouse with a temporary restraining order. He tells her he is sorry he missed her call and that he hopes she and David are perfection and that he loves and misses them both. She responds with a short and simple text, but it is very eyebrow-raising. She tells Johnny, the man accused of abusing her daughter, that she loves and misses him and that she'd do anything for a do-over for the last year. For anyone keeping up, that's essentially the span of time encompassing Johnny and Amber's marriage and when most of the assaults she committed against him occurred. He tells her, "Me too, darling," referring to the do-over. He expresses his pain and love for Amber and explains to her mother that they're divorcing because of her violently assaulting him a month earlier after he was late for her birthday party. He tells Paige that he left when Amber got violent and that is what he always did when she decided to get violent. He describes what happened on the night of May 21st, how he didn't throw a phone at her, and how Raquel came to the rescue as if he was some kind of a psycho the day after his mom passed away. He calls Amber the love of his life, but she can no longer exist in him and has gone too far perjuring herself. He says this is what he must deal with, and she is apparently back with her ex Taja. He questions what has ever been true or a lie, that he misses her and stupidly still loves her, and just couldn't make her smile anymore, which is all he ever wanted. He then tells Paige he loves her and misses her. Paige then says Amber is not back with Taja and never has been, telling him Amber loves him and wants to talk to him, adding that the lawyers have taken over. So, like her father, starting to blame the lawyers for all of this. She then tells him we haven't texted, and follows up by repeating Amber has not been with Taja trash, and David would love for Johnny to call him ASAP or call when he can. She again goes after the lawyers, saying that they are going to this love up entirely, that Amber still loves Johnny deeply, that she heard about 6 hours from midnight until 6. She then tells him that she loves him perfectly. Quick sidestep. If you watched this video I made a few months ago, I use all sorts of evidence to outline the week of May 21st through the 27th and how I think it went for Amber. These texts from her parents to Johnny really reinforce a lot of my thoughts in that video that up until the wee hours of May 25th, Amber was having a good time, sneaking James Franco into the penthouse, hanging with friends, going to parties, and sending Johnny texts to try and win him back. But when Johnny also filed later on May 25th confirming that the divorce was happening and Amber's demeanor changed because she knew he was done being abused and she wasn't getting him back, she went forward with her sloppily thrown together abuse hoax. From this point, she angrily told her parents to stop talking to Johnny even though she and they had been trying to win him back this whole time. I'm sure her parents telling the man being accused of abusing their daughter, the man Amber claims in her sworn declaration to have lived in fear of, that they love him and the last time they talked to her she loved him and wanted to talk to him and that they could work it out, wouldn't help her claims much going forward. Now back to the text between Paige and Johnny. She tells him to please delete the conversation. She never wanted to hurt them, she only wanted to help, and she messes that up a lot. Following with, I'm always here for you, and I'll just adopt you. He responds telling her a restraining order and a doctored photo are not love, and that he is shocked and disappointed, and he is not allowed to call, see, or text Amber, and that is so sad. I really want to point this out now because it's something that happened with her father speaking to Johnny and is now happening with Paige speaking to Johnny and continues for the remainder of their conversation. Neither her father nor her mother are disputing anything Johnny is saying about he wasn't abusive or that Amber is abusive towards him. Paige then again blames the lawyers for making up the story about abuse, that Amber didn't want this, it was not her idea. saying it was the fault of the lawyers on both sides, repeating what David had said about getting kicked out of the penthouses if she didn't say it. Johnny corrects her and says a restraining order does not suggest it's both sides, and that Amber has plunged the most jagged dagger into his heart, that he has lost the love of his life. He tried so hard and it hurts so f***ing bad. She again tries to tell him Amber did not want to do this and it's all the lawyer's fault. He tells her Amber did it to save her after the press were killing her for filing 2 days after his mother died. She tells him Amber believed Johnny's camp, not Johnny himself, would kick her out, and that's one of the reasons Amber was wanting to talk to him. Again ending with, I love you. He explains that he cannot legally text, speak, or see one another, nor can he be within 100 yards of the penthouse. So there's no way to work it out. He says he's stunned and her friends are leading her down an ugly path she may never recover from. He adds that he loved her so much and she is trying to kill him, before telling Paige, like he did David, that he is taking off his wedding ring. Paige then tries to convince him to go around the restraining order that her daughter just got by using other people's phones to talk. She then tells him Amber was so hysterical about her love for Johnny that she is considering suicide, even admitting that that sounds melodramatic. Again, she asked him to destroy the text between them like she was doing, and like so many times before, says Amber did not want to do this, but she was between a gun and a sword. Johnny, understandably frustrated with repeatedly being told Amber didn't want to do this and was being made to do this, stands up for himself by saying if she didn't want to file a restraining order and send a message to the world that he was some kind of a violent wife beater, then why go to the courthouse with a photo of her that looks like she's been abused? This is my life too, he says. What are my children and my children's friends supposed to think? I do not deserve this. They do not deserve this, especially not from her. Paige sticks to the story about the lawyers making Amber do this, that she didn't do it willingly and that's why she wanted to talk to Johnny, you know, the man that she lived in such fear of, that she believed it was the only way that she wouldn't get kicked out of the penthouse. Notice again in this text that she fears Amber will find out that she and Johnny have spoken, that we didn't talk and please never bring this up. Her panic about facing Amber's rage must have really been sinking in at this point, because in the same minute she sends a series of short texts, still seeking reassurance that Johnny will not tell Amber that she's texting him and saying these things. Paige being no stranger to taking orders from her daughter.
I'm What's that?
I'm her mom.
Who?
Oh. Never make eye contact.
She begins with, please don't pass this on if you ever talk to Amber again. I love you, son. She said you had no idea what the lawyers were doing. Please, please don't use what I've told you from my heart against me. Please, please promise me it would end my relationship with my daughter. I'm so sorry. He tells her he would never do that. And in his defense, he didn't. He had these texts over 3 years ago and didn't use them against Amber or her family, knowing it would have painted a much different picture and a more accurate one while he was getting destroyed in the public and the media. But now Amber has requested he submit any and all communications, so here they are. He follows up by saying he told her she could stay there, but now he can legally have no contact with her. He ends by saying, my heart is broken, that she has revealed herself and her true feelings, sad, telling Paige, I love you. She ends with, I love you too. Can I be your adopted mom? Good luck, and I can't wait to see the film. So to close this out, I have a few questions. Why were Amber's parents so worried that Amber would find out that they were telling Johnny these things, telling Johnny that Amber wanted to talk to him, that she wanted to work it out, or that this was all made up by her lawyers? This whole story was made up by her lawyers to keep the penthouses. Why even reach out and speak to this man? This same man who your daughter testified to being afraid of, that he would return and torment or abuse her at any time. Why say these things to him? When Amber testified in her 2016 declaration that her mother was the first person she confided in about the alleged abuse she suffered.
So at the very beginning, I would only tell my mom, somebody who understands this sort of situation.
So your mom, you told her that you've been physically abused by Johnny Depp?
Yeah, I would tell her from the almost at the very beginning. I confided in her. That's why I have pictures. Yeah.
Okay. So from the very beginning to this incident, May 21, you had confided in your mom?
Yeah, I think I probably hit the first few incidences, but very, very soon into it, I started to tell her.
Okay.
Why, as her parents, were you not at all concerned for her safety? Why were you trying to tell her alleged abuser to sneak around, to try and find a way around the restraining order your daughter had just received? Why not once during your conversations with him did you not question or dispute when he proclaimed his innocence about how he was never abusive or violent with your daughter? Or when he confided in you about how abusive and violent she is with him? Not only did you not question it, you comforted him, told him you understood how angry he was, told him he had every right to be. You apologized. You understood. Why? Why tell him repeatedly that you love him and miss him, calling him son and asking to adopt him? Then when it was confirmed that he wasn't coming back to your daughter, that all of your efforts were not going to bring him back, and you weren't getting any more of his money, you threatened to kill him for it. None of it adds up to anything but a hoax.